At exactly 0314 hours, on March 13th, 2026, in the pitch-black waters of the Strait of Hormuz, the world's most critical maritime choke point, a 33-kilometer corridor through which 20% of the entire planet's energy supply flows every single day. The darkness became something else. Not a storm, not a power failure. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps' Navy had just executed the most audacious multi-domain naval ambush doctrine in modern history, and the US Navy had less than 11 minutes to respond before the global economy entered its terminal spiral. 11 minutes. That is the amount of time between first contact and the point of no return. This is the story they haven't told you in full. This is what actually happened during the most dangerous week of Operation Epic Fury. The trap had been set across 17 days, since February 28th, when the United States and Israel jointly launched Operation Epic Fury, the coordinated air campaign targeting Iran's ballistic missile infrastructure, nuclear hardening sites, and military command architecture. The IRGC Navy had been quietly repositioning its asymmetric naval assets under the acoustic cover of exploding ordnance and the electromagnetics chaos of the most intense EAW environment since the Gulf War of 1991, while the world watched F-35C, Lightning E's, and F/A-18 Super Hornets from Carrier Air Wing 8 aboard the USS Gerald are Ford Hammer targets across Tehran, Tabriz, and Shiraz, and while IDF aircraft were completing their 7,600th aerial sortie across northern Iran, the RGC was doing something nobody in CENTCOM had fully anticipated in any of its pre-conflict red team assessments. They were mining the strait. Not with Soviet-era contact mines. Not with the primitive pressure-detonated devices of the 1980s tanker war, but with a next hybrid system of self-propelled autonomous bottom mines, guided by acoustic signature libraries, each one programmed to discriminate between commercial tanker hull profiles and US Navy warship signatures, allowing civilian vessels to pass overhead without triggering while locking lethal attention onto any military hull with a displacement greater than 2,000 tons. At the same time, the IRGC had embedded 12 Cayman-class fast attack craft, each one invisible on radar, running below sea clutter, with radar-absorbent hull coatings and shielded from thermal imaging by cold water injection system channeled across their exhaust stacks into 3 separate cargo convoys drifting in the strait under humanitarian exemption flags. Since day 4 of the conflict, Russia's Q-ship doctrine, perfected in the Black Sea and replicated in the Gulf of Finland, had been handed directly to Tehran in the spring of 2025. The Americans were about to discover just how good a student Iran had become. At 031407, the USS Paul Ignatius, a Naval-class destroyer assigned to commercial corridor escort, registered catastrophic contact. The SPY-6V3 air and missile defense radar detected the simultaneous activation of 80 separate radar return signatures, materializing at close range, between 800 and 2,400 meters, in a perfect arc across the ship's port bow. Not ghost contacts, not atmospheric anomalies. In the Combat Information Center, the Aegis Combat System screamed track priority 1 across every console. But the threat wasn't only surface. The SQ-Q89A V-15 hull-mounted sonar arrays simultaneously registered a chilling, distinctive transient, the characteristic cavitation pattern of a Fateh-class submarine, Iran's domestically built boat, 600 tons displacement, armed with EM-53 heavyweight torpedoes. It had been sitting motionless beneath the thermal layer at 40 meters depth for 6 hours, waiting. This was not improvisation. This was a kill chain rehearsed until it could be executed without a single spoken command. Simultaneously, on the eastern shore of the strait, near the Keshem Island coastal ridge, the Link 16 network received a flash alert from an MQ-9 Reaper loitering at 25,000 feet on SIGINT collection tasking. Its signals intelligence suite had just detected the emission signature of 4 Rod 2 anti-ship cruise missile, targeting radars activating positions that satellite imagery from 16 hours earlier had categorized as inactive infrastructure. Iran had used the debris, smoke, and fire suppression discharge from US strikes on Bandar Abbas to mask the reactivation of these shore-based missile batteries. The trap was complete. Fast attack craft, closing from the north. A submarine with loaded torpedo tubes beneath the keel. Shore-based cruise missiles spooling up to the east. And beneath the hull of the USS Paul Ignatius, an unmapped field of autonomous mines no one had yet located. What Tehran's warplanners had entirely failed to account for was what was sitting 40 nautical miles to the southwest, aboard the USS Gerald R. Ford. The Precision Strike Missile, the PRSM. This is the weapon the U.S. Army developed to replace the aging attack, a hypersonic surface-to-surface precision strike system with a range exceeding 500 kilometers, GPS, and a multi-mode seeker capable of locking onto moving targets at 031444. 37 seconds after the initial alarm, the maritime strike cell aboard the Ford executed the first PRSM combat employment in history. 2 rounds were in the air before the Rod 2 batteries on Keshem Island even completed their pre-launch targeting sequence. The first PRSM impacted the primary fire control node of Battery Alpha at 03172, the explosion visible from 22 nautical miles away in 91 seconds. 4 Rod 2 launchers that could have destroyed a destroyer were reduced to burning scrap on the Keshem ridgeline, but the surface threat and the submarine were still closing fast at 031530. CENTCOM. Authorized emergency combat deployment of Lucas, a drone engineered with the same radar signature as Iran's own Shait 136. 12 Lucas units launched in a pre-programmed swarm, descending to 5 meters above the wavetops at 185 knots. Their mission was to force the fast attack craft to maneuver, exposing their own radar cross-section and losing concealment. When 3 Lucas units detonated against the lead boat, the entire formation shattered. All contacts painted bright and clean on the Aegis radar. The Mk-45 5-inch gun mount opened fire. Simultaneously, 2 MH-60R Seahawks released GAGM missiles at the highest value attack craft. The submarine was the final problem, and it was the most dangerous one. At 0315-255, the USS Vermont, a Virginia-class nuclear attack submarine, broke radio silence. Contact. Solution. Ready. The Vermont had been tracking the Fada-class boat for 6 hours. Perfect firing solution, guidance, wire warm, torpedo in the tube. At 0316-251, the USS Vermont fired 1 Mk-48 ADCAP heavyweight torpedo in quiet slow mode. The weapon detonated beneath the Fada-class keel. The submarine flooded catastrophically, and its crew immediately activated distress buoys. The IRGC submarine threat in the Central Strait was neutralized. The autonomous minefield remained. This is where the most classified layer of the entire operation came into play. CENTCOMs. JADC. 2AI. Predictive architecture had modeled 847 possible IRGC escalation scenarios using 17 days of SIGINT collection. Minefield deployment had ranked 3rd on the probability matrix. Drawing from historical precedent of the 1987 tanker war, the USS Pioneer, an Avenger-class MCM vessel, had been prepositioned 20 miles south of the strait. 17 MK-18 would do Kingfish. Autonomous manhuntang UUVs were already mapping the seabed in 2-hour relay cycles. At 0319-244, the Kingfish fleet uploaded its completed coordinates. 11 confirmed autonomous bottom mines and 6 contact mines. Their last mine disposal charge detonated at 03 for 6 hours. The Strait of Hormuz was reopened at 0347. No U.S. Navy sailor killed. No Allied vessels struck. The IRGC's sophisticated asymmetric ambush had been completely dismantled. The United States Navy used drones, built on their own design, and a submarine that had been listening to them breathe. The aftermath was swift and total. Within 72 hours, Iran's Navy was assessed combat ineffective. The second Fateh-class submarine executed an emergency surfacing and was escorted to international waters by the USS Vermont. IRGC sailors stared down from the conning tower in absolute silence. As the USS Vermont held position in plain sight, the air campaign continued. The IDF struck the Supreme Leader's personal Boeing 747 fleet at Marabat Airport in Tehran. More than 7,600 strikes had been executed across Iran's 31 provinces, targeting nuclear sites, and ballistic missile facilities. By March 16th, Iran's military response had degraded to harassment fire, single missile launches, and 2 drones at a time. Each of these launches was not a demonstration of capability, it was a demonstration of desperation. Iran still had munitions, but it had lost the ability to mass them, coordinate them, or aim them at anything hard. 200 vessels sat paralyzed in holding patterns across the Arabian Sea, insurance underwriters refusing to authorize transit. A global economy that had already watched the Dow fall 400 points in a single session inched closer to recession. This is the real lesson. Winning every tactical engagement is not the same as ending a war. Iran doesn't need to win conventionally. It needs to survive long enough for a paralyzed energy market to do the work. Does Operation Epic Fury end the Iranian threat permanently? Or does it only delay it? Tell me in the comments. Stay sharp. Stay informed, because the ships are still at anchor, and this war is not finished yet.